Hey guys, welcome to our first in the 2 video series of the reviews we're doing to support the Lazy Eye Modeler group build decision making process. Yes, as we said in the video a couple days ago, we're going to be reviewing the 57 Ford Del Rio Ranch Wagon as well as the 1930 Model A Coupe 2-in-1 kit. And in this video, we are going to be taking a look at the Del Rio Ranch Wagon. And, in tribute to the way I see most kit reviews done on YouTube, I just say that we don't even need to open this box. I mean, it's Revell, right? So it's got to be like way detailed and super cool. And just look at the box art. And I mean, oh, look, there's an engine in it and stuff. And anyway, I hope you enjoy the kit review. We'll see you guys on the other side. But it's perfect. The Revell the Revell cheerleaders on the internet, they said it was perfect, right? Okay, so obviously that's a little bit of a not so subtle jab at some people out there who take an issue with the length of the videos or the duration of the review itself or the fact I'm allowed to have an opinion. All in good fun, though. No ill will towards anyone, although you people know who you are. And it's not a great big internet conspiracy. And no, I'm not trying to really create drama or anything like that. But it is really just having some good old-fashioned jabbing and poking at some people who are not having fun with their jabbing and poking. So, anyway, this review really is going to be the 57 Ford Del Rio Hidden Valley Ranch Wagon. So let's spin the camera around and see what actually is in this box. One real quick thing, I guess, while I still have it up in the air, here's what it looks like when you take the top off. So this is the way it's packed with the body on the side of the parts runners. Anytime you see that, you kind of start wondering, is something crushed? But I will say that this seems to be, I don't want to say hefty, but it seems to be pretty solid. So everything's good there on the initial opening. Nothing's warped visibly, and nothing is crushed. Alright, folks, we're going to start with the decal sheet. A fairly robust decal sheet here, as it includes, of course, all of the police options as well. And it pretty much is split top half, bottom half, obviously, with the optional mention here in the middle. There are quite a few choices as far as generic police and sheriff vehicles go in this sheet. The decals are very nicely done. They're very nicely drawn. I can't fault any of that. However, they're nothing specific. Now this police badge here does say Clearwater. Now there's a Clearwater in Florida, obviously. However, it doesn't have any kind of Florida markings. The actual police badge in Florida would have a little FL down there. And then over here, this says Franklin County. Now there's Franklin counties in multiple jurisdictions. Texas, Kentucky, Ohio, and this really doesn't match any of them, which of course, again, is the point because it's not supposed to. Up here you have your sort of color inserts for the vehicle itself, as far as these are the interior inserts and these are the seat inserts. You have white wall decals for the tires, and you have Ford, might help if you could see it, right? Ford logos for the wheels here. You have some Ranch Wagon logos. Ford logo probably for the, I'm going to assume for the front. And then there are valve cover designations there. Up here, you have some license plates, sort of general generic Revell variety, where I'm sure there probably are somebody's actual license plates, but they really don't go to anything in specific. And then you have your speedometer and some other little accessory decals for probably the oil filter and things like that. Although, like I said, guys, I haven't gone through this kit yet, so I don't know what parts are in here. I did, of course, I have the 57 Ford sedan custom, as well as the police version of it, but I haven't looked at either one of those in quite some time. So bear with me if I name you some parts that you don't actually use on this build as far as this goes. But again, like we do all the time, it's a standard Revell thing. Here's your color callouts is over here, and then your parts list with all of the numbers and of course all of the names. This is reading something like a bad white pages, actually. Quite a few parts. It's 114 on this page, and then there are continuing another set of parts lists that goes sequentially to 121, then jumps to 140, runs through 156, and it's 200s and 300s and stuff like that. Standard vehicle construction as far as a Revell kit goes here. You build yourself your engine. You go ahead and you put it into the chassis, or actually the frame in this case. Build along, put your floorboard into your frame, build your rear seat, your front seat, get everything mocked into a sort of a platform style interior that we've sort of come to expect out of a Revell kit these days. Of course, there's an optional police. Yes, it's so optional you can't see it the way I have it folded here. But there's an optional police radio for the police option, of course. And let's see, you put your air cleaner together. You throw your battery in there, throw your radiator together. Wheels, tires, glass installs from the inside, it looks like, and then they're just into trim pieces from there on out. And then you have two decal layouts here. You have, of course, your regular civilian version, and then on the back, a sort of very generic, and what looks to me attempting to use every single thing on there at once, police layout. And it's an option. I know some people will buy it for the police stuff, and that's fine. And it's not bad police stuff necessarily. It's not accurate police stuff either, of course, but it's not, it's not so terribly bad that, oh my god, I can't believe it. So this first little baggie we're going to open here has some, what I believe are common parts that go to both of the Wagon and the 57 Chevy Custom, or 57 Chevy, wow, 57 Ford Custom itself. This first parts runner right here is going to have my X-Acto knife in it, but it's going to have your drive shaft, your rear leaf springs, the front part of your rear differential. I believe these will be shock mounts, and the actual shocks themselves. The differential has some pretty decent engraving to it, as do the shock towers. I don't want to sound like I'm negative if I'm not throwing myself all over the place with praise for this, but this again is a 2015 kit, and I expect certain levels of detail. And so far I'm good with what I'm seeing here. This next little parts runner here will have what I believe will be your well, these will be your bumper extensions. This is the top of your radiator. This is your actual radiator core and the radiator support. Your spare tire well, two different style gas tanks. I'm sure one is for the Wagon, one is for the sedan. You obviously don't use whichever one you don't need. Let's see here. You got your battery, and this is why we keep the instruction sheet handy, because, again, without seeing it, I don't know what half these parts are, because, like I said, I'm legitimately looking at this stuff as you see it here. And that says it's part 99, which says that's the radiator wall, but that can't possibly be correct. So, yeah, it must be part 66 then. Steering gear. All right, well, that makes more sense. So here's your steering gear. As an interesting aside, these, if let's see, we hold it right side up here. Yep, that is right. Okay, so I'm reading upside down. So your steering gear. Your radiator has good engraving. It is sort of quasi hollow on the back, but it does have engraving in the back. And then I do like the feature of this top part here being a separate piece, because I know a great deal of people, and this is not a knock on any one person or anyone build, when they get these radiator tops, most cases when you're doing a one-piece radiator, this is where the seam would run down, and a great deal of people do not ever sand the seam off, and it really ruins the look of a nicely built model when there's a seam going down here, and then it usually goes across the radiator cap too. So having that be a separate piece is a nice touch. And then over here, in this parts runner, will be, geez, a lot of dust on this stuff. Will be your, will be your upper A arms, your pedal assembly, obviously your exhaust, and your wheel backs and wheel fronts for the steel wheel option. Not that there's another wheel option in here, right? Because I should say for the wheel option. Good detail to it. Including the, the wheel hub itself showing on two of the wheels. So these are nice enough that I would be comfortable with leaving them, alone and not putting the hubcap on them if you so desired. Let's see here. I'm going to try to find some more parts so I can tell you what half this stuff is, because the curse of a well-detailed model kit is, of course, that there are a whole bunch of parts in the model kit that don't readily appear to be anything, and these don't have part numbers on them. So these might actually be the carburetors out of the carburetor, the fuel, the air cleaner on the dual carb setup on the other car, because there are no part numbers for these, which is a nice touch. Let's just leave them wondering what the parts we're using for. And then the other part down here is going to be your wiper motor. So, yeah, nice. Again, nice touch to have separate pieces for small parts like that. Doesn't make them necessarily easily identifiable to the person doing the kit review, however. Let's see here. I'll take this out of here. I think you guys could see it well enough through the bag. This will be your clear tree that has your front window here with some sun visors molded in. Your two side pieces of glass are here. Let me try to slide it down that way. Are here and here. And then your rear window is here. You have vent windows for the front. Your turn signal lenses. And of course your headlight lenses. These red things floating around in here. This set of red things right here is your tail lights, and then this set of red things right here would be the beacon for the emergency light. That'll bring us over here to the chrome tree. The chrome has two runners in it, as you can see here. One is a very, very small runner that involves the police parts, and they are the base to the emergency light, the Fender mounted siren, should you so desire one. It has effectively no face to it, as you will, if you would. It has a hole, so be interested to see if there's another part in there to cover that, although it doesn't really look like there is. It has pretty decent engraving as far as the fins go, because these will be an air-driven growler siren back in the day. And then you have a spotlight and an antenna for the police radio itself. The actual chrome tree that everything sort of shares, as it's the 57 blank chrome tree, if you will. Very shiny chrome, I'll give it that. Let me tip this down a little bit. There we go. It doesn't lay flat, so there's got a little warp to it, but I don't think that's actually going to affect any of the parts necessarily. Over here are your hubcaps, your hood ornament, your windshield wipers, the backs to your headlights, your rear view mirror, your side view mirror, your door handles. I'm guessing this is Let's see, is that the back hatch handle, or is that like a oh crap handle from the 1950s? Let me see. Let me see. Come on. I'll have to open the page. And well, what do you know? It's another part with no number. So there's a handle here that's not used for anything. I don't know necessarily say it's a hood ornament, but it's probably what it is. Your alternator and your well, I should say your alternator. Well, apparently it's your generator. I guess we would not be in alternator land at this point. And then there's part 22 here, which I believe is part of the Supercharger setup from the NASCAR kit. If maybe, yes, possibly. I don't know. It's not, again, not numbered, so you don't need to know what it is. Here's your front grille. Very nicely done in the sense that it, of course, is see-through. It's always a nice touch when you get a company to do that type of detail. It is, of course, see-through in the sedans, the customs as well. That's nothing new. And then you have, let's see, and they're saying front rear bumper, right? So front bumper is here, rear bumper is here. Now, the rear bumper, the rear bumper is not correct for this vehicle. And I also think they have that number backwards. Because, maybe not. Need to look at the box art. Oh, okay. So the rear bumper on this kit, when they originally designed it, was going to have the great big push bumper guards on it. And what was quickly pointed out in the setting of seeing test shots and whatnot was, of course, the fact that if you put these great big bumper guards that are on the front bumper onto the rear bumper, like they originally had planned to, you, of course, would not, in real life, be able to drop the hatch at that point because the hatch would impede on the bumper guards. You would not be able to, the back deck. It's the old style station wagon where the top glass goes up and then the bottom half folds down. So they then went for this sort of just plain generic bumper. The problem with this in accuracy land, of course, is that the station wagon had mini bumper guards. It had little raised nubs, but they were not anywhere near as big as this. Now, one thing that to me is really catastrophic, if you want to use that word, in these kits, and it is really bad on this on this front bumper, is let's see here. I'm trying to figure out which way I need to go with it. This way. And I'm trying to figure out if it's going to actually show up or not, because again, it's a weird angle and everything else. There are. It's just gonna be it's just a combination of a bad angle to show you, and I don't really want to cut it off the runner, and the chrome, the very, very shiny chrome that they've plated it with. There you can see right here, there is a mold line on this bumper. There's also a mold line right here on this bumper, and they're matching mold lines on the other side of the bumper. And this over here has some really lousy plating on it. I mean, like, really lousy, like pitted and not shiny, and it honestly looks like somebody folded over some really crappy bare metal foil on this bumper. I wish you guys could see it. I wish it would focus. And for some reason, my cat is losing its mind. So if there's howling in the background, I apologize. It's just... Nope, it's sick. All right, fantastic. But you can see in this, there we go, in this shot too, that's just some, yuck. All right, well, I'd like to change my vote to the 30 Ford. Is it too late to do that? That's some pretty ugly plating, and I don't think there's really a solution to that other than either all cladding it or sending it out. That's something you're going to be able to fix on your own and replate. Because it's too big a parting line. You're going to lose the chrome altogether. So, at any rate, moving along, again, guys, I'm seeing it for the first time with you. So, if I sound overly disappointed, it's because I'm seeing it in real time. So, these parts runners here are going to be your engine. You've got your fan, your front cover, your serpentine, and the front of your generator, your water pump. Would imagine that would be your well, wouldn't be your generator at that point. What is part number 20? Oh, that is my generator. Well, apparently I have a generator and an alternator in this kit. No, I don't use that alternator. That must be the alternator out of the NASCAR version. So here's your factory stock generator, your distributor, your ignition coil, upper and lower radiator hoses. Let's see, part number 9 would be my starter, fuel filter, fuel filler. Obviously, these would be your exhaust manifolds and your oil pan. Oil pan has good detail. Has a little, I guess it would be your downdraft tube stuck to it there. If it would focus, yes, please, maybe. There we go. Your exhaust manifolds have a couple of, there you go. You can see them there. Have a couple of, not so much bolt heads, but a couple of metalworking things cast into it. So that's a nice touch. They are hollow on the back. I don't think that's really necessarily detriment to most people, but some people will want to fill those in, and now you know. The next little parts tree will be almost probably not used, I'm going to guess, because this is a completely different sort of racing style fan assembly here. So yeah, you don't use that. Let's see here, part 23. Yeah, you don't use that. Part 27 and 26. Well, this is going to be your supercharger parts. So it's nice that they're in here. They're not going to mention them to you. Part number 109. You don't use that. Part number 25. Yeah, you don't use that. Yeah, let's see. Part number 24. Nope, we don't use that. Let's see. It's part number 146. I know. Just throw them in it. Action packed. 140. Nope, that's not the right number. What is that number? 148. So this kit review from the staff project, we learned that James's glasses probably need to be replaced. Nope, we don't use that. So this entire parts runner, don't even know why it's in the kit. So here is your wagon specific parts runner that has, I'm sure, something that's very important. Okay, this is your starter reel. This tiny, well, that's going to go flying into the carpet monster within seconds of you cutting it off the thing, which isn't a bad comment there, but it's your starter relay, and then your, let's see. I hate to do this because it makes it go so slow, but I'll make sure I know what every single thing is here. They're saying this is the carburetor, which I guess, okay. Really? That's the carburetor, huh? Okay, and then this will be your fuel line, and this is the top and bottom half of your air cleaner. Good engraving on the air cleaner top. I like that. That's good. 2 pieces, no seam. Always a plus. And then here are of course, your engine parts. You've got your 2 engine halves. Got 2. Let's say 2 sets of valve covers. You don't. 2 valve covers, another hose, which maybe you use, maybe you don't. Nope, you don't. This over here is something that is your, that's a valve cover as well. But that obviously is my valley cover. That makes more sense. Your cylinder heads and your intake manifold. All of it pretty well engraved. There's no, I'm not sure if this is probably, I shouldn't say. This doesn't have a cast iron texture to it if it shouldn't or shouldn't. It does have a little bit of a texture to it. Might show up underneath paint. All the parts are pretty well engraved. There's no flash or anything like that on them. So anyway, that little package was your engine. Over, let's see here. We got two more bags. One big bag here. This is going to be a lot of your interior parts and whatnot. Right here you've got, let's see, got more parts, and this again is the disadvantage of not having reviewed the earlier kit in the sense of the what am I trying to say? The 57 Chevy, or 57 Ford. Wow, I keep calling it a Chevy. The 57 Ford. Because I did not review the 57 Ford on camera and in front of you guys, I don't know what these parts are, which ones belong to which, because I don't recognize the new pieces. But be that as it may, here's your back seat back. This is your cargo floor, and this is the top of the gas tank. Your seat doesn't necessarily have much in the way of engraving because, of course, it is designed to use those decals. Obviously, all the piping lines are there so that you can, pipe your two-tone and whatnot, but it's not necessarily, there's no texture to it. It's pretty much smooth. And the seat back itself has some pretty nice texture to it, which is probably, pretty realistic because I'm sure, well, actually, I'm not sure, but I'm assuming that this was sort of a, being designed primarily as a two-door wagon. The Del Rio is, of course, the top-of-the-line version of that, but there was a lower, more economy models, just like there were, 150 and 250 Nomads, that this is more of a, workman type of back seat area where you're, not wanting to tear up a cloth back seat. So I appreciate sort of the texture thrown into that. Let's see here. The next parts runner here has your hood. It does have a hinging mechanism on the front, so it does fold forwards the way it's supposed to in real life. These two pieces here are your inner fender wells, and then it has your dashboard here, and it has more little round parts that are not easily identifiable. And so we consult the book to see that they are not used in this kit. So, going on the underside here, the hood has some underside engraving there, and some, well, they just look bad because they're kind of dirty, and that's making them stand out more. But it does have some, obviously, very pronounced ejector pins in the bottom of the hood. I will say that if I have to have injector pins in the bottom of the hood, and do I have to have injector pins in the bottom of the hood? No, I don't, because if I was buying a Tamiya kit, while there are some, kick points out on the ledge here, Tamiya would, if you've seen the space frame to the 1955 or 19 whatever year they think it is, because it's not 55, the Mercedes Gullwing. If you see the space frame to that, the space frame doesn't have any ejector pins on it because they put all the kick pins out on the outside edge of the runners and nothing hit the actual plastic parts. But if I have to have ejector pins on a kit, at least they're in the valleys of the engraving. It seems to be a real big problem, and obviously it's not on this kit, so we're not talking about this kit specifically, but it's a very big problem when they put these ejector pins out on the edges of the hood, and it crosses into the actual ribbing engraving, and then you're fighting a constant battle with, trying to fill these in, but not obliterate the detail at the same time. And we'll flip this around, and we'll show you the dashboard. So looks like it's got some pretty good engraving there. There's no actual like dash engraving per se where the decal for the speedometer would go. So if you're one of those kind of people that likes to dry paint these rather than use decals, you're out of luck there. Otherwise, looks like it's got some pretty good detail to it. Got a speaker in the dashboard. These were metal back in the day, so there's not going to be a whole heck of a lot going on here as far as padding and ribbing and all sorts of stuff like that. And it's I'm good with that. It looks good to me. Show my ignorance in 57 Fords. That's probably really, really awful, but oh well. So oh heck, there's more parts. This would look like it's more wagon parts than anything else, which makes that whole back seat not the back seat anymore. Let's see here. This would be part 202, and 202 is the cargo floor. Yep, that makes sense. I'm assuming it's going to mount this way, and you're not going to see this side because this side's pissed on a plate flat with 6 ejector pins on it. And then 208 is the front seat. This would be the front seat back, and then 207 is the tailgate panel. Aha, we have made our conclusions. So much like the front seat, or much like the back seat, there's no, engraving here. There is actually some texture to this, however, because I believe this would be cloth and or vinyl in the real thing, and that would be where your two-tone sort of separates. So that's nice. You got some texture to it. Back seat, it has the piping, but it's pretty plain. I don't know if there would be anything there necessarily. Your tailgate panel has some nice engraving. And then really, so long as you don't see the other side of this, where there's nothing on it, there's some nice engraving here in your cargo floor as well. So that's very nice. That's obviously very much a wagon specific part. We got two more in this bag here. Here's your front suspension and the pumpkin and rear axle assembly. I've seen one, you've seen them all. And this would, of course, be the last one of this this bag. This has, of course, your side panels for your interior, your steering wheel, your steering column. It looks like your master brake cylinder, 227 and 229. All right, so this would be your headlight bezels, which is what I thought they were, and then 229 is your rear taillight bezels. So these are body color in the car, I believe. Yes, so that's a nice touch. You didn't mount them to the windshield, or not the windshield, but the chrome tree for the reflectors. So you can paint these the body color they need to be without dechroming them, or what would really be the case is you're going to screw them up because you try to dechrome part of it and not all of it. So again, nice job there by Revell. Everything is clean as far as that goes. I mean, there's seam lines down the sides of the round parts, but there always will be because of the nature of two-part molds. Your firewall has pretty good detail there. Nice engravings. And then this will be, of course, your side panels. Your door cards, as Elliot would call them, if Elliot's still out there someplace. Haven't seen a video from him for a while. Nice engraving here. You got your window cranks, your door latch. This has some very nice texture to it as far as the, I guess would probably be cloth parts of this as well. And then this little blobby here. Well, it's not a blob actually, but this little part right here is the police radio, which of course, unless you're making a police car, is irrelevant. It's a nicely sort of done piece. However, it's not actually period correct. And that brings us to the last bag, which has your body and your frame and your interior. It's not a tub, it's just a platform for it, or really what amounts to the floorboard in this car. So here's your frame. Lays flat, so that's not warped. We're already off to a good start. Just give me a half second to look it over. That's about what you'd expect. It is hollow on the top, which again, to me, is about what I'd expect. This will bother a number of people, or will not bother you, depending on how you look at this. It will, of course, be mounted to the, bottom of the interior floor pan, so you're not going to see it. However, I know a lot of people have issues with hollow frame rails like this, and will want to fill them. You may want to fill this up here, depending on whether or not that's prototypically correct, and perhaps maybe to here, depending on how much will show through the fender wells and everything else like that, because then you really are sort of showing, an open frame rail probably through the engine compartment. I think about right. Well, here's your transmission mounts, but so right about here is where the firewall is going to hit. These by the way are cutoffs. They're just that's somebody the other day building 57 Chevy asking what parts these were supposed to be. They're just ejector pin kicks, much like this right here. You're going to cut this piece out here that has these ejector kicks on it, which is kind of ironic. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cut out ejector kicks, and 1, 2, 3, 4 down this side ejector kicks. So you have like a couple little ejector pins on this side, but most of them are done on these kickouts. So this has more, kickouts than the hood did, on the side that you'll never see. Be that as as it may, it is what it is. You have, it's pretty much what you'd expect out of a frame. It's got bolt details for where the frame will bolt to the chassis. It's nicely done, fresh. Obviously this is a pretty fresh piece, being that it is a relatively new kit. Although this frame itself, I don't know if this frame is new or not. I'd have to get a 57 actually out and look at it to see. That would take us to, it's actually up inside the body here, so I want to be careful and don't snap anything. Here's your floor pan itself. So obviously, this answers the question. This cargo piece, this floor pan here, is going to go on the upside of this, on the back side of it. So you're not going to have to worry about the fact the bottom is undetailed. So you have a little remove tab here, and then there's a couple more ejector kick pins there, so that you, again, aren't sitting around wondering. This back here has like no detail whatsoever, but of course, as we've shown you through the number of parts, you'll have to, this is one of these kits, I guess, guys, with the number of parts it has, this is going to require you to consult the instructions at least once or twice, so make sure that you're using the right pieces. You're going to use the right fuel tank and the right chassis pieces, because clearly, as we've seen, there are a number of pieces that you are not going to use. It'd be really nice if they would name them anyway, just so you knew what they were. But if you look at a part and it doesn't have a number that corresponds to the part's number, then I guess you don't use it. There is a 2015 Revell made in China little engraving here. It's very, very faint. Couple of swipes with a file or a sanding stick will take care of that with no problems. Overall, the chassis has some nice detail in it itself. It's well engraved. You have to see it all together. So much of it is missing because of the sort of universal use of this part of the chassis itself. There's also a Made in China sticker here and a Made in China tampo print here. So just in case you were wondering, this was not made in the United States. Since you are going to be building this off the floor, so to speak, there is a carpeted texture to the floor of the chassis. Let me spin it sideways so I can get it closer. I don't know why it's not focusing. And one thing you're going to notice right away by looking at that, even out of focus, now it's in focus, there are a plethora of ejector pins all through your carpeting. That does present a problem in the nature of box stock. If you were going to build this box stock, and I know I've already got 100 people right now screaming at their computer, I don't build anything box stock, James, stop talking about it. For the people that do build box stock, and can't use flocking, because some box stock contests will let you flock and some won't. Some are like, get the flock out of here with that. These ejector pins, are a very major issue, because there is, like I said, an engraved carpeting texture in here as well. Obviously, now we see entirely that this piece here will go in here like this and cover up that back sedan area. So, hey, look, it fits. It fits actually pretty well. I bet you that won't come back out of there. So that's a nice touch. I like that. They could have not done that, or they could have left it out. Anybody who's bought the reissued in a plain box, like a 2009 reissue of the 55 Nomad that AMT did, they took a lot of the parts out, including this trunk floor, and it's not, so you get a really unique experience trying to build that kit. Overall, I mean, how many of those ejector pins are going to disappear underneath the seats? I'm going to say these two back here will. Oops, that's total, so you can see it. These two back here will, because they're going to be underneath the back seat, because this is the edge of the back seat adjustment point. And then these will go, maybe, depending on how far the front seat goes back, because here's the edge of the front seat attachment point. So these might go, these might not go, and then these are going to be covered half. So again, just be aware. And then there's some out here on the outside edge, right here, and then right here, that are not far enough out that they're not going to be covered up by the side panel when the side panel goes on. And that brings us to well, actually, let's before we go to the body, let's real quick. This is, of course, your tires. They are no name, skinny 1950s tires. These are probably the same tires that have been in every 1950s Revell kit ever. I mean, they have decent sidewall, although you probably can't see it. There's a plastic bag. I'm not going to take them out of here because I think if you've seen one set of Revell tires, you've seen them all. Well, believe me, if you've seen one set, you've seen them all. And then these metal things that are flopping around in here are the wheel nails. After not using nails, so to speak, in kits pretty much for several years, they're back in these 57 Chevy, or 57, why keep calling us Chevys? 57 Fords. So here's your body. Pretty sturdy, as I was saying. I don't know if they molded it like thick on the roof to make sure that it didn't crush in transit, or it's just the nature of the way the molds are. It's straight, it's level, no warp. So hey, we're already 100% better than a Mobius kit off the bat. All of the door panels, as I sort of sit here and I realize you're not seeing as much as I am, but all the door panels are okay engraving. You're going to want to go over them all again anyway, probably just as a course of business, because that's just the way, you know, most people go about their daily routine, if you will, because, you know, you always want to try to sort of re-engrave your openings so you don't lose them in paint. There is some weird, I don't know if it's going to focus on this or not. It'd be great if it would. There is some weird liquidy, it's kind of jelly, oily something on this. It's all over it. No, not all over it, but it's there's a little blob here, there's a little blob here, there's a little blob here, there's a blob there, there's a blob there. There's some sort of ejector oil left on this. So, yeah, be aware. Yeah, I would assume that most people that are watching this, because you're going to be building it for a build-off on a channel that is not a beginner channel as far as I'm concerned, are going to wash your body, but wash your body. Let's see here. One other assessment I would like to make before I start yakking at you guys about it. That is good, is that these swooshes that run down the side appear to be level on both sides. You know, it would not be out of the ordinary for an older version of this kit, because it would have been retooled, you know, 10 or 12 times, like the fiddly Tri-5 Chevys. Yeah, they start losing their definition over time, and you end up with these things being at different levels. So there is, of course, on the accuracy land debate, some issues with the fender wells and the curvatures of these things. I'm going to be perfectly honest here, guys. I'm a stickler for accuracy in the sense of the roof shouldn't be 2 inches too low, the fender flare shouldn't be 2 inches too wide, and things like that. But when it starts getting into nitpicky stuff like this that you're not going to notice unless you're either a owner and or expert about 57 Fords, or you own a 57 Ford you can sit it next to, it doesn't bug me that much. Would it be nice if it was completely correct? Of course, but nothing's perfect, and that's not even a knock at Revell. Literally, nothing is perfect. Tamiya kits aren't perfect. Aoshima kits aren't perfect. It's close enough for government work as far as I'm concerned. Everything, you know, everything is square. Everything looks good. I could do without the weird oily residue on everything. You have a engraved gas filler door there. That could probably use a couple of swipes through with a scriber to make it deeper. Everything else seems to be pretty much you know, deep enough, if you will. You know, one just good, you know, swipe through to redefine lines, maybe after primer, or maybe you know, before paint, or you know, beforehand. Depends on how you go about things. Some people will do, you know, primer and then do their body work. Some people do their body work and then their primer. It's all your personal preference. I'm not going to get into that argument. I personally do my body work before primer, and then again if I have to. I don't like to paint something just to sand it all off and repaint it. That seems redundant and silly to me. These cars are ugly. I'm sorry. I know there's some people out there that find these cars to be way more attractive than 57 Chevys, and those people are wrong. They have these bug eye headlight lenses, but again, it's kind of an ugly, unique ugly to me, so I'm okay with it. The one thing I do notice, and I think I remember this from this 57 Ford as well, is there are some sink marks right at the edge of the fender. There's just little divots right on each side of the center chrome, well, not would be chrome, but the center character line on the fender right here and right here. So it's on both sides. It's one of them great things because, and I'm being sarcastic there, where let's see if I can tip it forwards and see if it'll catch it in the reflection or not. There you can see it on this this fender. Well, actually, you see on both fenders. You see there's a divot there right behind the headlights bezels. It's not a major divot, but it's going to be one of those things that you are going to notice. And with that character line going down the middle, it's going to be that'll be a pain in the ass to fix, because you have to try to get that taken care of without obliterating that character line in the process. And it's just literally, if you look at the inside of here, it's the top of these headlight bezels is what's causing the problem. And that, again, is just the nature of plastic molds. When you have heavy engraving on the inside of things, sometimes it comes through on the outside of things. We'll go through real quick the mold lines on here, because this is starting to run a little bit long. Mold line on the front fender comes out here at the junction of the front door and then runs down the outside right along here. Oops, let's tip it this way. Runs right along the edge of this fender here and then goes down. It sort of rides the underside of the eyebrow, which is, again, that's going to be fun to try to get across. And then it runs down the outside edge of this, and then it runs down right along here. Right along here. And then on the back side, it comes off of the, I guess this would technically be what, an A, B, C pillar. It comes off the back of the C pillar right here, runs down the outside edge of the fin. And then, let's see, goes, sort of around the, let's see, since we're coming on top of the fin here, it's going around the outside. And then it runs down with this, I don't know if that's a gap or that's the mold line. I think that's actually just the mold line showing up that well. Runs down the outside edge, and I think this right here is a mold line. You'd have to actually sit down and really look to see if that's a character line, if it's a mold line. But anyway, it goes right here and then down across the edge of the fender. So that's the body. I'm going to sit here and grab the box real quick and see if that's there. It's been left everywhere, left on both the builds, so I assume that's a character line. So you just a couple quick swipes there just to knock down the edge, and I think you'll be okay. Other than that, it doesn't seem to really run the roof too much. It doesn't run anywhere else. Overall, the body looks good. The body looks nice to me. I wanted this kit because I like the station wagon aspect of it anyway, and it looks good to me. I'm happy with this body. Okay, guys, so our final thoughts. The good of the kit. It is very nicely done. I will give credit to Revell every time they deserve it, and in this case, I think they do. There are a few problems, which we'll get into in a second, but overall, the kit looks good. It is nice engraving. It's accurate within the context of what I call the 98% kit, which means it's mostly there. There are a few nits and picks here and there, but I think they are mostly for the person that is very, very, very into accuracy to the point of being, call it a rivet counter and not even in a friendly sort of way, or again, the person who owns one or has one. Body is very nice. The chassis itself, the floor pan, is nice. The engraving overall throughout the entire kit is very good. It is what I would consider to be up to par, at least with anything out there in the engraving sense. Perhaps not necessarily the most fine engraving. You know, it's not going to be Tamiya level, but it's certainly up in the top 3. It's, you know, again, I wanted the kit mainly because I think it's an oddball thing. It's a station wagon, and there aren't that many station wagons kitted in the first place. I really wish Revell would tool up the 57 Nomad and the 55 Nomad to get all the Nomads for the Tri-5s, because this would be a great addition to have the 57 Ford ranch wagon, and then you have, you know, a plethora of 2-door wagons, and that's just cool any way you slice it. Plus, of course, you have the 49 Mercury wagon, too, and the 48 Woody, which technically is 4 doors, but we'll throw it in there. So there's a nice collection of 40s and 50s wagons available. I know there's a couple of 60s, too, but I'm just talking, you know, the real, you know, classic cars. You know, the wheels are nicely done. You could use them without the hubcaps and not have it look bad. Overall, like I said, it's just a good kit overall. It's a nice, strong effort. And so the bad. Okay, the bad is that the hood has ejector pins that I don't think it needs to have. It should have been engineered in a different way. I paid $22.97 for this kit at what I want to believe is Hobby Express, which is a hobby shop up on the north side of Pittsburgh in Cranberry Township. If you're ever around the Cranberry exit of the Pennsylvania Turnpike, it is pretty much easy on, easy off. It is a full-service hobby shop, trains, boats, RC, the whole 9 yards. And I mean remote control boats, not just boats, but RC, Gundam, Warcraft, arts and crafts in general, trains of every scale. I'm starting to sound like a commercial for this place, but believe me, it's full service hobby shop. So if you're ever up that way and you want to step in while they're open, price on kits are kind of high. There is always a 50% off discount, which I just think they should just price their kits 15% less. But you know, so $22 with a 15% off was like $20 and change. So it was a good price on that, but the price on this kit was lower than the 57 Ford because it's a reissue, even though it's probably, what, at least 40% new. But anyway, back to the bad. Like I said, that is an issue. The ejector pins on the floor of the chassis itself, or the floor pan itself, which will cause problems. Again, only if you're building block stock, but you know, not every single person wants to detail every single thing to the nth degree. Sometimes it's nice to just sort of throw things together in a box stock format and get a kit done. I really think that the easiest way to get rid of the ejector pins on this floor pan would be to flock the floor pan the color of your choice. You can get, I don't think I have any close enough to grab. I don't think. Yep, here we go. I know, you're seeing an extreme close-up of me, and I apologize. Embossing powder. This is not flocking. It is used for scrapbooking. This is white, which is not really white. It's actually clear. It just looks white because there's so much of it in here. It's like grain of salt, sand thin. You apply this just like you would flocking. Put some glue down or put some paint down, and then you go ahead and sprinkle it on, dump off the excess, and then you can paint this whatever color you need it. I also have it in black. They make it in a number of colors. It used to be Martha Stewart brand. This is Stampendous. Again, it's back in the scrapbooking section of like a Michaels or a Hobby Lobby. It's not going to be in the hobby section per se. This, I don't think I have the price tag on this anymore, but it cost me like $3 for this giant container, and this, which is really a giant container with this stuff. Excuse me. But this stuff is very much more the scale of real carpeting. There's some very well done flocking, don't get me wrong, but a lot of flocking that you see out there is ground up carpeting, which, hey, it's the most realistic thing for carpeting is ground up, but it's way, way too thick as far as the fiber goes, and it ends up looking like you have a toupee on your floor. And we've all seen really, really bad flocking, or people who actually ground up carpeting, and it's even worse. Embossing powder, I don't have anything to show to you because I don't have the interior. I've done the interior of a couple different things with this, and like I said, I'm very happy with it. And the best part about this stuff being clear, like I said, is you can paint it whatever color you need it to be, and you're not stuck with trying to get a custom blend of flocking or painting something color you don't want it to be so it'll match the flocking color you have. So that's the easiest way to end that problem. Of course, if you don't want to, it's a major issue because you cannot sand off those ejector pins without obliterating the carpet engraving. Obviously, your two choices of getting rid of a ejector pin or sanding it flat or putting it up, whichever way it needs to go, and either one of those things you're going to lose some detail. I guess the other bad thing, and this is sort of, I guess fringy, but is holy mackerel, there's a lot more parts in there that you need. Without there being a parts layout like there is in an Asian kit. Like, let's see. I'll grab this instruction sheet right here. Like here, this is the parts layout to a Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG GT3 kit. Now, you use all the parts in this kit. Nothing is grayed out. But if you get an Asian kit and it has one of these parts layouts and parts start disappearing into shadow, you don't use them. And so you don't care. I don't have anything really on hand real quick that I can pull out because the other thing that's up here that's Japanese kits and Ferrari F40, and you use all those parts. But there's way too much going on there as far as I'm concerned. I realize that gating stuff off, and then I'm trying to ungate it, damages molds, and there's a whole bunch of stuff there. But just tell me, give me the part number, give me what it is, and then just stick a do not use or not used in this kit type of thing. We spent way too much time in that review going through it, being really confused about what things were because, hey, you didn't use it. And there's an entire parts runner for the engine. You don't use it all. So, there needs to be a different way of organizing that so it's not so confusing because like I said, there's two sets of fan belts, there's like a number of air cleaners in there for other things, there's alternators for race cars, there's the supercharger setup, which is great to have, but they don't tell you how to put it together or what it looks like when it's done. And maybe you'd like to supercharge your wagon. That's kind of a cool nice little sleeper thing that's going on there. So well, you know what? It wouldn't be a video if there wasn't a cattail, right? Say hello to Hobby Kitty number 3. You guys have seen her before, but she has made an appearance recently. All right, get down. The ugly. Man, I was really hoping to get this kit done without one of these. I wanted to have a Revell kit that didn't have an ugly because I know people think that I am anti-Revell and I'm anti-domestic manufacturers in general, which isn't true. Make me a good kit and I'm happy with it. A good example of a good kit, as far as I'm concerned, is like the 53, or I should say the 52 Hudson Hornet by Mobius. The convertible version. The regular version of that kit, no, because the roof is all wonked up on it. I mean, I have one anyway, but the convertible, because it has no roof, eliminates all the roof problems and everything else. It's a really nice kit after that. A Revell kit that's nice is like the 65 Chevy Impala and this Impala convertible, and to a certain extent the 66 Chevy Impala, although it's just like marketed as, I believe, an SS396. Revell has made a number of nice kits, and it's not just pre, 1998 before the merger and stuff like that. They made some nice kits afterwards. I'm trying to think. I'm looking at only like half of my collection here, so my mind's going blank. But they made some nice stuff. The ugly thing about this kit is those bumpers. There's a terribly large, horribly obvious mold line going down the sides of them. And even if you could show me proof that it should be there, and I'm gonna look at the box here, and it's been airbrushed off, so I'm gonna guess it's not supposed to be there. Even if you could prove to me that seam should be there, the chrome plating is awful because of how high the seam is. Chrome plating is very, very thin. Anybody who's built models knows that. Anybody who's spent any time around models knows that. Anybody who spent some time around some 2000 era model kits in general knows that they can just flake off while you handle it. But that is just, I'm sorry, unacceptable 2015, 2016 to have mold lines that gigantic and have chrome plating that bad on top of it. It'd be one thing if it was one or the other, but both of them at the same time, no, I cannot just put that in the bad category. That's ugly. That's just no excuse for it. That really does take my desire to build that kit out the window, because now I know I'm going to have to cut those things off there, and I'm going to have to all clad them, or I'm going to have to get them re-chromed all together. It is that prominent and that bad. And like I said, if it was just a mold line, I could maybe just be like, I didn't notice it. But with the mold line and the shitty chrome at the same time, no, I can't. So I was hoping we could have a good a positive, and it is more positives than negatives. That is really the one really eyesore thing. If it wasn't for that, I think we could have had, there's some ejector pins that are problematic, but a real modeler can take care of it, kind of deal. Or just anybody with basic skills, because real modeler is an insult. It's 156 pieces. It's state of the art for Revell, and overall good. But wow, that just is a smack in the face as far as the chrome goes. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry to rain on anybody's parade who had that and maybe hasn't gone through it and really looked at it, or maybe your chrome isn't as bad as mine. There's always that chance, because each time something stamps out, it stamps out just a little bit differently. And the chrome plating process, say that 3 times fast, is not a universal science where every single thing is going to come out the same way. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. See you guys on the other side.